Trump, de Gaulle's grandson, and German generals call for peace with Russia. What is Moscow's response? The US and European governments are driving the situation to ruin, despite the fact that Russia, despite the pressures, is not escalating the war in order not to stop the upward course of the Russian economy, while on the contrary that of the West is being affected. It is not excluded that things will be pushed to extremes from the internationalist side. Therefore, there are voices trying to free the US and Europe from the grip of the internationalists who are impoverishing the citizens of the West under the guise of Russia in order to present them with a new state of governance. The Trump intervention, the position that if he were the president of the United States, he would negotiate and achieve the end of the war in Ukraine within 24 hours, was formulated by Donald Trump, who continues his severe criticism against the policy followed by the Biden administration towards Russia on the occasion of the Ukrainian crisis. Even now, if I were president of the United States, I could negotiate an end to this terrible war within 24 hours, Trump said in a post on Truth Social. What is Russia's answer? The Kremlin spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, also referred to this position of the former US president, who meaningfully noted that Trump is not far from the truth. In theory, Trump is not far from reality, he said. The US president, if he really wants to end this conflict in Ukraine, can do it very quickly, using his ability to give orders to the Kiev regime. Kiev, of course, being the capital of Ukraine. Such a directive to the Kiev regime from Washington is enough, and then everything will be able to end, certainly not within a day or two, but the key to the Kiev regime is in Washington's hands, the Kremlin spokesman argued. The grandson of Charles de Gaulle from France, peace with Russia here and now, he says. In a debate on the 80th anniversary of the end of the Battle of Stalingrad, Pierre de Gaulle, grandson of former French President Charles de Gaulle, said that President General Charles de Gaulle said that the buildup of Western weapons in Ukraine increases the risk of a Third World War. He said, unfortunately, this decision will entail the procurement of increasingly powerful longer-range weapons. Unfortunately, this increases the risk of nuclear conflict. That's the precipice we're on, he said. The conference, the remembrance of the Second World War in Russia and France, and the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Battle of Stalingrad, in which de Gaulle participated, was launched and accompanied by the RT Media Group. The general's grandson said it was time to bring the Americans to their senses, quote unquote, about the conflict as well as for a lasting peace in Russia, with Russia. De Gaulle said, this is time for France and its president to remember that they are a great independent nation and play a role they really have. Serious guarantees must be given to Russia, de Gaulle said. According to him, Russia and France share a history that binds us more than occasional conflicts of interest and the fact that Paris has become unfriendly to Moscow. He said similarities in history help manage conflicts of interest. Ordinary French people would pay a very high price for the continued confrontation. French President Emmanuel Macron must sit at the negotiating table with Vladimir Putin, continued Pierre de Gaulle. He said, I would like him to show more independence in this role and respect the responsibilities he has been given. I hope that Macron will not be excluded from the negotiation process by bigger players, and that the escalation with arms deliveries for which we are paying a high price will stop immediately. Peace with Russia. Two former German generals call for protest. Yesterday, January 30th, two open letters from two foreign generals of the former East German National People's Army, DDR, were delivered to the defense attaché at the Embassy of the Russian Federation in the Federal Republic of Germany, Sergei Tsukrov. In these two letters, which complement each other, retired General Manfred Grantz, former Vice Minister, and retired General Sebald Dome present their views on the current war hysteria in Germany that ever existed. Under the title German Tanks Against Russia, Turmoil in My Conscience, retired General Manfred Grantz calls for peace. For General Grantz, the fronts had long been clear. He said, we are in the middle of a war. What else is one to do when one has already supplied tanks another heavy weapon with the noble goal of defeating Russia. Under the headline Protest Against Germany's Continued Support of Ukraine with Tanks and Other Heavy Military Equipment, retired General Sebald Dome asks, have they lost sight of the fact that it is not Russia that has moved towards the borders of Germany or the EU, but the NATO troops standing today on Russia's borders? He then recalls that it was the US and NATO that staged a coup in Ukraine in 2014, ousted the elected president and militarily armed Ukraine, and pitted it against Russia for 8 years of war. At the end of his letter, retired General Manfred Gratz calls on all former officers to react to the Berlin government and push for peace here and now. The two letters of the two generals have already made waves in Germany. For example, the East German Council of Association Commissioners, OKW, with its nearly 30 associations, some of which are scattered throughout the country and still have many thousands of members, called on all members, sympathizers, and other concerned citizens to raise the voice and express their opinions. This is from a Greek article I've translated for you. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box.